Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, the Cubs
Uh,
3 out in Miami. We will get to the rough loss on Monday. Cubs fans, I think most of them understand these things happen, but we'll talk about it and get to some bullpen issues that popped up. First of all, let's get to Matt Shaw returning. Matt Shaw, we knew this was coming at some point. This road trip felt like the right time as he got hot. Uh, we talked to people over the weekend and kind of got an indication that okay, with this was they were kind of waiting for something to happen here with him. Get his mechanics a little ironed out. Yes, getting his confidence back, feeling good at the plate, swinging at the right pitches, hitting the ball hard. They wanted to see all that, but he's done that at AAA. But
yeah.
it's so merely seeing that wasn't enough for them. They wanted to see some changes. They saw those changes, and here he is. He's back in the big leagues. Nice night too. 2 for 4. I thought that double especially was, that's kind of what we were sold on Matt Shaw being, and I thought it was it's a good sign. It's a good sign for how deep this lineup can be.
It's also a good time to rejoin this lineup. I mean, facing the Marlins. I mean, people love hitting in Cincinnati, the next stop on this road trip. I think the degree of difficulty was something that, we knew going into the season it would be there for him, but, you know, Dodgers, Padres, top relievers, top of the rotation starters, like things sped up on Matt Shaw. And I'm curious, Sahadev, like in the course of your reporting, what was kind of the, I don't know, power struggle or the dynamics here of like Matt Shaw's a self-made player. He progressed very quickly. He's an intelligent player. I know at Maryland, they had a pretty progressive hitting system where he was talking all about, I don't know, for lack of a better term, like the biomechanics of his swing, like just like a real kind of like gym rat. And then it got up here and you asked him, like, what happened to your swing? And he was like, I don't really know, just how pronounced it was. And it sounded like the Cubs sort of were like, sure, you need a breather, but you need to do X, Y, and Z now.
Yeah, people when players succeed, when players have consistent success, it's kind of hard to get them to change. And in general, the philosophies of most organizations and the Cubs, at least as far as the people I've talked to in player development, is they're not going to force change when someone is succeeding. If it's unconventional way to success, which Matt Shaw's swing, we've all seen it, is a little unconventional. A lot of parts of it, the leg kick is the one that people really notice, right? The setup is a little odd, the closed off and like the turned front foot, and it's an interesting setup. But the leg kick is the one that even before I asked him about it at Cubs convention because I had some scouts asking me about it and some people questioning, like, is this going to be an issue? Is this going to it's a pretty pronounced leg kick. You can get away with it. It can work. There are players that succeed and thrive. But there were a lot of moving parts, and sometimes you have to get to the highest level before those holes, I guess, are exposed. And the Cubs felt that, look, to get back up here, you need to show us you can make this change. Uh, I feel like Shaw probably felt like, hey, I've succeeded with this. I haven't talked to Matt Shaw about this directly, so I don't want to put words in his
Mhm.
mouth. My understanding was it was a process. He needed to feel comfortable with this new uh, leg kick, and I mean, the video shows it. It's not an elimination of the leg kick,
Mhm.
but he was bending his knee and getting it almost into his stomach. And now it's just a leg lift, let's call it. The
Yeah.
knee doesn't bend as much. It's not as dramatic, and it was less about results and more about seeing this change because, like I said, they knew he'd get results at AAA.
Yeah.
They were not worried about Matt Shaw suddenly not being able to hit in the minors. That was not a concern for them. They didn't think suddenly he was lost. Yeah, confidence and all those things are important. I don't think it was some dramatic loss of confidence here for the kid. Uh, but the timing was not right. But hitting is all about timing. We can talk about all these different things. Um, Everyone has different mechanics. Everyone has different ways to find to get to their best self. But if your timing is off and if you're late on pitches, which he was, a lot of times you're going to drive the ball into the ground. And he just wasn't hitting the ball as hard as he used to. He wasn't driving the ball like he used to in the minors. And one game doesn't tell us everything, but it looks different, and certainly the mechanics are different. So he's bought in. The Cubs kind of sold it as, hey, this is how you get back up to the majors. Show us you can make this change, bring it into games, and this is how you get back up. And they kept their word as he made the changes they needed to see.
We are recording on May 20th. I think that gives him about 2 months before the trade deadline stuff will really start to heat up. Obviously, there's still time after that, but I guess you have to be looking at this window of just pile up at bats for Matt Shaw, see how he feels, gets comfortable at this level, gets some confidence against some lesser competition than the Dodgers and Padres, relievers. This is the outcome they wanted all along, to have him as their everyday third baseman. I think he was hitting ninth, and in Japan, was he hitting like fifth on opening day?
Yeah.
Very much of a lowered expectations here. Okay, go hit against the Marlins as our 9 hitter versus being middle of the order guy against the defending World Series champs at the Tokyo Dome. But we wrote about this a couple of weeks ago. There aren't many good third basemen out there, so even if you're hell bent on adding a third baseman, it's going to be hard to pull off. And we saw it Monday night in Miami. Like, there are several pitching staff issues looming that may have gone to the top of that priority list, even over third base.
Yeah, absolutely. You've said it multiple times now, but I think it's worth emphasizing and also not making excuse of, but pointing out that he started his career against the best of the best. The NL is stacked. The NL, go look at the standings. They are the best teams in baseball. The talent is this is cyclical, but all the talent has, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of the talent, especially since Aaron Judge is in the American League. But the best teams, a lot of the best talent is in the NL right now, and the Cubs faced almost all of that to begin their season.
Yeah.
Now, Matt Shaw, to succeed in the majors, to be a very good, an all-star caliber player, which is kind of the hope for him to become, he's going to have to succeed. He's going to have moments where you don't always succeed against those guys, but you have to be able to hold your own and perform against the best, especially come October. But to start your career off that way can be hard. That's a daunting task. It took a little out of him. He's made the changes. Now he gets a softer landing, build that MLB confidence up, and then let's see how he does his second round against the better teams in the big leagues. I'm curious to see kind of the development of Shaw, that because we're going to see, does it tell us a ton what he does against the weaker teams? I think it tells us that he can handle the major leagues, at least to a certain degree.
Yeah.
But you want to be challenged, you want to face the best, and eventually I think he'll get there. He is a good hitter. And if they truly believe that this timing mechanism was the main culprit, and if that's all it is, I think I'm curious to see how he does. I think he can be, if not an above average offensive third baseman, just average. One of the numbers I looked up, they were 29th since he left. It was just like the catching in center field before Pete Armstrong. They were 29th after he left. I didn't even bother looking overall for the season. I was just curious it was bad. He had a 62, I want to say, weighted runs created plus, something like that for the team. This was after Vidal Brujan's like 2-for-3 night or whatever it was the other day. It was like 35 weighted runs created plus with bad defense. Just not a good performance from third baseman. You touched on it there, Patrick. Some bullpen questions, some pitching questions that the Cubs are going to be facing. Let's take a break and get to some of this news that we have.
FT fam, let's talk about the HOF app. If you're into parlays, but sometimes you're missing the mark more than you would like to, can I introduce you to some serious analytics on an app that is easy to read and comprehend? And I'm sitting next to a man who knows how to place a parlay.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is breaking down a parlay with this Hall of Fame app. There's the situations that you'll find easier to do. It's very helpful and understanding. And if you like, gambling, sometimes this is really good to know. So get on there, get on that Hall of Fame app and check it out.
Yeah, this is info that will help you, okay? With a 4.9 rating in the App Store and over 6,000 5-star reviews, safe to say that HOF has already helped a lot of people bet smarter. For a limited time only, FT listeners can get a 7-day free trial and 50% off their first month when they use code FOUL at checkout. Download the HOF app on iOS or Android. Enter code FOUL and you're all set.
All right, Patrick. Bullpen issues will always get the hand wringing from fans. Understandable. That was a tough loss on Monday. That's and the Cubs haven't had many of those. That they open the season with a few. That one in that Sunday in Arizona stands out as arguably the worst loss of the season. I can't think of a worse one off the top of my head. This one was pretty bad. They came back. The offense looked, really resilient. Miguel Amaya with a great night. You got to give him a ton of props. It seems like he's coming up with a big hit every time he's in the lineup. And then I thought the bullpen usage was interesting. Immediately, I saw Presley come out in a 1-run game. I was like, okay, he's going to Presley in a 1-run game. He trusts him enough to do that. And Presley delivered. Presley looks a lot better. He's getting more strikeouts. He's not done. He's not where they need him to be, but I thought it was a good step forward. Pomerantz, what a revelation. Just a great story. Just looks great, consistently getting outs, limiting damage. Just looks really good. They have 2 trustworthy lefties. Thielbar came in as well. And Brent Brown, what a weird start, by the way. I don't want to derail this, but immediately gives up 2 home runs, then retires like 9-12 in a row, and then has another blow up inning. Just such a weird start. No walks, a ton of strikeouts, and just a ton of hard contact when they did make contact. Very odd outing, but we can talk about that another day. But that's just so close to being just a great outing, and then it all falls apart. And if maybe one inning or a few more outs for him, and we're talking about a different game. I mean, we probably are. Ultimately, what happens is Palencia comes in for the save. I was curious about it immediately. Fans were for my read on social media. Where is Porter Hodge? Well, Palencia blows it. It looked like, how close was that to a dominant 1-2-3 inning too?
Very close.
So
yeah.
Close, okay. He blows it. It hangs a slider, walks the next guy, RBI. I believe it was ruled a double, or was it ruled a triple? Either way, game winning hit to end the game there, and Palencia blows it. We learn Hodges to the IL with an oblique, so that's a little worrisome. I'm not super concerned about Palencia. I don't think he's the closer for sure going forward. Maybe it's closer by committee, maybe someone else, but there's a lot going on here, and arguably one of your best relievers hadn't been performing his best, and maybe this had something to do with it. Porter Hodge going to the IL, that's a blow to this team.
Might be time for an updated version of your bullpen power rankings here, because Drew Pomerantz, we're definitely going to get into it this season of just kind of his journey. It's kind of crazy to how far off the grid he had been, and then to come in and pitch multiple innings, be a super reliable bullpen arm, and sort of like turn back the clock to when he was this really interesting pitcher, whether it was a first rounder, guy who Craig Counsell deployed very effectively in Milwaukee, or guy who got a really big contract kind of before some of those. I feel like that was one of the first like reliever contracts that like really kind of went big and like went multi-year pretty far into the future. That's how talented he is. But it's kind of like whack-a-mole with this bullpen. You kind of think, one thing is resolved and then something else pops up. I know I was just looking at Porter Hodges, baseball reference page, and he actually has like a negative WAR and a 5 ERA, but that's basically off of 2 innings. That I think he's like no earned run in like 17 of 21 appearances. I think of the 11 or 12 runs he gave up, like 9 were in 2 separate outings combined. Just going off feel, I don't know about you, but whenever he comes in the game, I don't really think like, oh man, I'm gonna have to scramble and rewrite everything the way it kind of got there with Presley for a while. And I don't know, I wouldn't write off Presley because the Cubs can't afford to. Like, he's going to keep getting opportunities as he should, because I don't really know who else they turn to. I'm assuming Gavin Hallowell would be the guy coming up, just because he's been so good, but I don't have any inside information on that. But I mean, Brad Keller, Drew Pomeranz, Gavin Hallowell, like not 3 names we were talking about in Mesa as like, circle of trust, but we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to assume that it's Hollowell because Brazier may be ready. I just don't know where he's at.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So I don't want to, and by the time people are listening to this, we may have the answer to that. So
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure what direction they will go. But I think Hollowell was my initial feel, and then I remembered Brazier.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah.
I really like the way Craig Counsell uses Brad Keller. I think he's kind of do it all reliever, and those are really important to have. I think he needs to be the closer until Porter Hodge is back, or Ryan Presley looks like, unless you're super confident in Presley. Brad Keller has the best stuff. He does not get barreled up. He does not walk guys. I like Daniel Palencia a lot, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for the work he put in the offseason, both physically and mentally. He's talked about it. He got to a better place mentally. I really liked. I watched, our colleagues talk to him after the game last night. I liked the way he responded. He was not all beating himself up. That's important. He was saying this is baseball. I think this is. I know some fans may want to see more. I hope fans understand why a reliever has to treat it like that. I hope they understand that because you cannot beat yourself up. Baseball does that to you enough, and then you need to go out there, especially as a reliever. Forget it. Just go out there and like. I don't know if that walk, if that hanging slider to the double led to the walk. I don't know. It wasn't like he was all over the place. He was just missing with some pitches. So I don't know if that was, one thing happened and it led to another. But you really, I don't know. And I don't know if Kyle Tucker could have caught that ball. I saw some people talking about that. I had a feeling when watching it live, like, oh, could he have caught that? I don't know. I don't know if he could have. And we can't, it's hard to know these things for sure. These things happen though. The Cubs have stolen some games from other teams, good teams, Arizona, LA, good teams lose to bad teams. I believe the Dodgers just got swept by the Angels.
Yes.
I
mean, how many fly balls did the White Sox mess up over the weekend at Wrigley? Like, it was just like every time you looked up, the White Sox were messing something up.
Yeah.
So like you kind of give and take here.
Yeah. The Cubs didn't blow that game as much as it was just, these things happen in baseball. What you don't want is like it to be the start of something. What you don't want is for these injuries to just derail things. Losing Porter Hodge is a blow. I would say that again. We don't have details on how bad this oblique is. You hope with pitching, it's I think a little different than hitting, but you hope it's like Ian Happ's oblique, where it's just like, you know what, go on the IL. We're not gonna mess with this. You're feeling something, you're on the IL. It also is it's risky. Yeah, we saw Javier Assad. We saw these things don't always work out that way. But you have to hope that it's the shortest possible oblique stint you could get, because you just don't want to lose guys like Porter Hodge. And this is why you keep depth. This is why when people were saying just get rid of Ryan Presley, you don't. This is why, when Tyson Miller was struggling in camp and people were like, you have to get rid of him and you can't keep him around. Like, we don't know. Tyson Miller had a setback. He's not ready to come back. I'm just saying, like, you just need all the depth you can get. You just need it. And this is why Council loves options. This is why Council loves to keep depth. They don't like to mess around with that stuff. You don't know who's going to get hurt, who's going to be ineffective. You said it at the beginning of this segment, like Brad Keller, Gavin Hollowell, who's the other name? Drew Pomerantz. Like, we didn't. What? This is going to be like a trustworthy group of relievers? I don't know. Like, you don't know what to expect with bullpens, and I just think I say it all the time. It just gets proven over and over again. I'm not saying I can predict it, but the point is nobody can. So we just shouldn't make assumptions.
No doubt. And I think we'll kind of get to this in our next segment, but just this idea of like, things are starting to add up here. So if you're watching this as a fan and trying to contextualize this season, like, this is where things can go a little sideways. It has gone sideways in recent seasons. Doesn't mean it will. This is an improved group. There are some different, characters here, but like, you can absorb, an injury here or there, but this is kind of coming to a point where, I think we will see what the Cubs are made of.
Yeah, Patrick, let's take a break and get to that.
I just want to say, before Arena Club, if you were trying to very actively buy, sell, trade, it was very complicated and used a lot of mail that was unnecessary.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to do it, but I'm glad we have Arena Club now, because it's a one-stop shop for everything card related.
It is. And right now you can get 20% off your first slab pack or your first card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/FOUL. Use code FOUL. If you're a collector, you've got to check out Arena Club. Go get after it.
All right, Patrick, you said the injuries are piling up. They are. Ian Happ on the IL, Shota Imanaga on the IL, Justin Steele lost for the season, Porter Hodge on the IL. Those are all key players. Only one is lost for the season. We should make that clear. This isn't an utter disaster. There are teams going through this. This is part of you need to be a resilient group to get through a season. Very few good teams just have zero injuries. That's called luck, is what that is. If you have that, it's not a repeatable skill. So it's not something when teams notice that. We were very lucky with injuries one year. That's probably not going to happen this year. The teams are aware of these things. It sounds like Ian Happ is coming back. Maybe by the time people are listening to this, Ian Happ will have been activated. I think that's huge for this team. I wrote about how he's underrated. I think he's incredibly valuable to this lineup. If he just continues to be who he is, he doesn't need to do much more than what he was doing. Just get on base for all these guys and take the pressure off everyone else. I think Peter Armstrong has been amazing at the top, but Peter Armstrong has been amazing. Full stop.
Yeah.
So I think Ian Happ kind of fits that role as leadoff guy. I know people want to keep PCA up there. I think it makes sense to let him. Maybe the lineup looks different in general, but I think Happ makes a lot of sense at the top.
I think what people really want is for the Cubs to clone Pete Crow Armstrong, so there just be 9 of them in the lineup and playing every single position, or maybe, I don't know, can he close? Like, put him on that track. He's got a pretty good arm, but yeah, just that effect of, yeah, he's awesome in the leadoff spot, but Seiya is no longer your DH, and there's kind of some trade off there. I mean, I'm interested to see kind of what happens with this pitching staff. I believe Council told reporters in Miami that they're looking at, quote, well into June for Shota Imanaga's potential return. This is something, he doesn't have a whole lot of experience with. We know the Cubs are very cautious in these matters. And I think, when you have Shota and Justin Steele down, it just gets thin. And, Ben Brown has great talent and has shown flashes. But I mean, if the Cubs were anywhere close to full strength, I think we'd probably be asking, like, is his spot in the rotation in jeopardy? Has he already lost his job? Could he be a really interesting reliever? Like, could he do what Drew Pomerantz did or what Brad Keller does? Like, I don't know. That would probably be interesting. I don't really think that can be on the table at all. Like, you need him stretched out. And then, Hodge, it's crazy how this guy in spring training the year prior, no one was talking about at all. He pops and becomes this really nice piece of your team. And then, this year it's kind of talked about as like, oh, it's a given. Porter Hodge is just a lockdown reliever, and he does not have a long track record. And if he's not healthy now, it's a huge loss for, a manager and a coaching staff that is pretty good at game planning and navigating the opposing lineup, but you still need those pieces that can go out and get you the outs.
Yeah, when it comes to Shota, so I just quickly looked at it. So he's been out for 3 weeks. But what we're generally told is that I shouldn't say he's been out for 3 weeks. Sorry. What I meant to say is they expect him to start throwing off a mound at the end of this week. So that would be about 3 weeks after he went on the IL. What we're generally told is the amount of time between like you're out and mound time and then getting ramped back up. It's like that's the time it takes to get ramped back up. So it'll be about 3 weeks, 3-ish weeks. And if they're being
assuming
a little
no
cautious,
setbacks,
assuming no setbacks, and if they're being cautious, let's say 3.5. So that if everything goes right, I'm guessing the earliest when he says well into June, I think he basically means not the first week of June. That's all. Like, he's being nebulous for a reason. He's giving himself time, and he's saying it could be the middle of June, it could be late June, and that's the what we're hoping for as far as the Cubs are concerned. So I would guess the earliest is like June 13th. That's about 3 weeks from this Friday. And that's my guess as the earliest. That's everything goes right, and they feel like we're not pushing anything. I think it'll be later than that, and I think that's okay. You don't want to go crazy with this. We just talked about it, Patrick, but they're in the midst of a weaker schedule. You have to try and get healthy here. Use this time. If you look, fans are going to be upset that if they don't win every single one of these games, and that I get it. You want to beat up on this team. These teams get 20, 30 games over 500 and run away with the division. Yes, that would be ideal. But what you need, you're a little banged up. Get through this. Go 14-7, like we said, of those 21 games. If you do that, I think you're okay. I think you're fine. You want better. You want to run away. You want to be a great team. They are banged up at the moment, not decimated, but banged up. Get through it. Get healthy. All these guys hope they come back and they're performing at their best. But this is a kind of a grinded out point of the season. And they're lucky that it's a weak point as far as the schedule goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we look at this like, it should be like a 1950s high school football coach and like, maximum effort, all out, every single, pitch. And it's like, obviously they're trying their best. They're professionals, but there are certain points of the season where you, like you say, you have to grind it out. You have to ride it out. You have to kind of let things happen. You have to give certain guys rest. You have to let certain guys develop and figure it out, such as Matt Shaw. Sometimes the payoff is Pete Crow Armstrong. And, I think at this point, we touched upon it earlier. This is a lot of information for the trade deadline. Like, they need arms big time. And maybe Matt Shaw flops and a deal for a third baseman sort of falls into their laps. I kind of doubt Shaw will be as bad as he was at the start of the season. And like we've written about, there aren't that many great options out there. So you hope Shota can be, your game one starter. I mean, fingers crossed that Matthew Boyd stays healthy. He obviously had a shortened season last year, coming off the Tommy John the year prior. He says he feels great. He says, when the ball's in my hand, like, I'm in control, like, I know what to do, feel great. Hopefully that continues. It's hard to see, like, them being able to absorb another, like, established starter going down. That's where things could get really sort of dicey. But, that's the job. That's what Craig Counsell is good at. That's what this organization has built up over the years, this infrastructure, the depth. Figure it out.
Yeah, trade deadline. We're going to be focused on that trade deadline. I think that's right now it's going to start to. It's not going to start to heat up, but the talk amongst media and fans is going to, like, when these injuries happen, it's like, who are the targets, and because of the wild cards, the expanded wild cards, just not as many sellers, but there are bad teams out there. Obviously, they're playing one right now, Colorado. We'll see what Washington does. We'll see who. I was just looking. Colorado has a decent reliever who's striking out like 30% of the guys that he faces. Walk some guys, but who, I don't know. We'll see who these guys are, who these relievers that they target are. My guess is they get multiple relievers. And they try for one starter. I just don't think you use those assets for position players right now. But we'll see what it looks like in we're near the end of May. So let's say a month and a half is when things will really get going. Remember that the draft screws things up as well, as far as talks, and that's around the All-Star break, I believe, this year. All right, Patrick, we'll be back with 2 more episodes later this week. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. This is North Side Territory. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks so much.